Okay. Um, Good morning for those of us who are in Nigeria. Afternoon, evening from all others joining us from different parts of the world on different platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and others. The conversation today is organized by Life Builders Initiative. Is on the alternate school system in Nigeria, a panacea for tackling out of school children crisis. That is the topic that will engage us in the next 2 hours, interacting with members of the academia, civil society, government, and the media, among others. My name is Mikhail Ibrahim. I'm a technical advisor with FHI 360. As a background, FHI 360 implemented the RANA project, Reading and Numeracy Activity, that has a component of HASKE intervention in some 2,768 integrated Quran schools in northern Nigeria. RANA was a partnership with UNICEF with funding from Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO. FHI 360 also is implementing the Addressing Education in Northeast Nigeria in Borno and Yobe. And we are going to have a presentation from the Deputy Chief of 40 of the project, Dr. Anna Maziga. So that is a little background about our connection with this activity. So on January 26, 2021, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, announced the inauguration of a steering committee on alternate schools, a high-powered committee of 18 members. The committee is co-chaired by the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management, and Social Development, and the Minister of Education. There are about 4 ministers, members of the National Assembly, and heads of key education parastatals in the country. Since the inauguration of the committee, we know that there were 3 meetings held by the committee and with a number of outcomes. One of them is that the committee has been extended with 8 additional members, and it has inaugurated a 33-person technical working group just early this week on the 13th of April. For a committee that large and with such high-level stakeholders, we can say that is really a commendable effort. But since the inauguration of the committee, practitioners must have been asking questions about a number of connections with their activities in the field. We are in a country that is leading the world in the number of out-of-school children, and that is seen in different ramifications. So the question of out-of-school children is one of the key responses to the point on alternate schools. And in fact, as part of the presidential address during the inauguration, there was a mention of 13 million children that are out of school in Nigeria. The point on Al-Majiri is also one: non-formal education, skills acquisition, second chance are all different issues that one can relate with the point on alternate school. Very many people are hearing the concept for the first time and are making efforts to connect it with their activities. It is such a pleasure that Life Builders International, in continuation of its dialogue, advocacy, and intervention on out-of-school children, is organizing this session so that we can have a good conceptualization of the concept of alternate school, how we perceive it, and how it relates with our daily work. So to the best of my knowledge, outside the work of the committee, this is one conversation that I'm seeing for happening for the first time on the subject. So we thank Live Builders for this, and we thank all the various speakers that are invited to shed light and relate with the concept of alternate schools. The sessions that we are going to have will take some 2 presentations according to the agenda, and a panel session. Then we respond to comments from the various audience that are joining the call. With this introduction, I welcome everyone in this interactive session, and hand over to my colleague, Ifeoma Garua, who will take us through the highlights of the agenda and introduce the various speakers as planned therein. Thank you very much. Good morning or good day to everyone from where you are joining us. Ifeoma Garuba is an external partnership officer with the UN World Food Program. Of course, there are a lot of intersections with this engagement. When you talk about food, school feeding is one factor that we just have to relate with any intervention like this. So this is a multi-partner activity, and I'm pleased to hand over to Ifeoma to lead us with the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikalo. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, speakers, panelists, and all participants from across the globe. I would be taking us through the agenda right now, just to highlight what we'll be doing today for the 2 hours that we're going to be here. We have gone through the first 2 activities, the first activity already, which is the introductory remark by Dr. Mikalo Ibrahim. And then we will go straight after I finish with this agenda presentation to the remarks by the convener, Dr. Samuel. And right after that, we will take the keynote address from Professor Julius Ihobavere, the chairman of the House Committee on Basic Education for the House of Representatives here in the capital city of Nigeria. Immediately after that, we will have a presentation by Dr. Anna Madziga, the Deputy Chief of Party for USAID funded project. She'll give us more details on this when she's making her presentation. And then we'll go to Ms. Kimberly Geyer, the founder for Global Women Leaders, who will be making a presentation on financing alternate school globally. And then right after the presentations, we will now go into the panel discussions as highlighted already by Makilu. The panel discussions we have, we will have 6 panelists and 1 moderator. Mikalo will be moderating this. And then after this, we'll take comments and questions from participants and of course from anybody else who wants to ask who's participating in this. So this is what the agenda the highlights of the agenda look like so far. And I would, once I call on the panelists, I'll give a brief bio or just a brief intro on the panelists before the panelists, before the presenters start making their presentation. So as I had said earlier, we are going straight to the convener of this fantastic event, one of its kind, actually, as Dr. Akilu had already said. This is the first in the series itself and the first of its kind in Nigeria. So I will introduce briefly Dr. Samuel before you take over. He's a convener of this town hall meeting and the Chief Executive Officer of Life Builders Initiative for Education and Social Integration. Dr. Samuel will be setting the stage for the events and highlighting the reasons why we're here, the objectives for this town hall meeting, and where we hope to go with this town hall meeting, and the outcomes of this and how we take this forward. It will also be important for me to highlight that Dr. Samuel is not only passionate but dynamic in the way he's shaping the discussion around out-of-school children in Nigeria, and I'm proffering long-lasting solutions to this challenge. Life Builders Initiative has worked in the space of out-of-school children for over 10 years, intervening in Lagos State, Ogun State, the FCT, Nasarawa State, Bauchi State, Zamfara State, and Enugu State. Oyo as well, and of course the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria. The beneficiaries of the LBI program come from 24 states of the Federation. And with that being said, I would like to now invite Dr. Samuel Olatunji David, FIMC, CMC, CPM, to give us his opening remarks. Over to you, Dr. Samuel.
Thank you, Ifema. That was quite rich. I would like to welcome Professor Julius Ihovere, the Chairman House Committee, who will be speaking shortly after I make this my presentation. In a short while, I'll be sharing my screen. However, before I do that, I'll just go because of our time. Education is fundamental and foundational to the essence and sustenance of any society. We are having this conversation around alternate education, not because education system as it's currently considered is a waste and a failure. That is very far from the truth. For indeed, the education system as it's currently constituted has sustained the nation's economy and the workforce up until now. Based on the significance and importance of education, the government promulgated the Free Universal Basic Education Act 2004. Herein will subsequently be referred to as UBE Act, which seeks to provide compulsory, free, universal basic education and made it a criminal act for a parent or guardian not to enroll his or her ward in school. Let me start my presentation by quoting some of the very important from the Compulsory Free Universal Basic Act 2004. By Section 1 of Part 1 of the Act, without prejudice to the provision of Item 30 of Part 2 of the second schedule and Item 2A of the fourth schedule of the 1999 Constitution, dealing with primary school education, the federal government's intervention under this act shall only be an assistance to the states and local governments in Nigeria for the purpose of uniform and qualitative basic education throughout Nigeria. Section 2.1 of the same act says every government in Nigeria shall provide free, compulsory, and universal basic education for every child of primary and junior school age. In the same act, Section 2.2 says every parent shall ensure that his or her child or ward attends and complete basic education. Next. Section 2.4 says a parent who contravenes Section 2.2 of this act commits an offense and is liable. Section 3.1 of the same act says the service provided in public primary and junior secondary school shall be free of charge. Section 4.1, every parent shall ensure that his child receives full-time education, suitable to his age, his ability, his aptitude by regular attendance at school. Section 6 of the same act says the magistrate court or any other state court of competent jurisdiction shall have jurisdiction to hear and determine cases arising under Section 2 of this act. Now, to continue on this conversation, ladies and gentlemen, may I humbly submit that the challenge of the regular school system is traceable to 4 flawed assumptions. And this, number 1 of the assumption, the cost of being in school. It is assumed that every parent should be able to afford, which are uniform, books, feeding, sandals, etc. Number 2 assumption, every parent will consider education a priority so as to rank school attendance highest on the scale of preferential use of the child's time. Number C, all children are born with equal capacity, and it is available for the society, that is the teacher, to write on once it is in the curriculum. It foreclosed children born with innate capacity, abilities, and interests. Neither did it envisage children born also with physical learning or physical disabilities. Number D, every child is owned by the government. Hence, the government can legislate on where the child will be part-time, what the child will be doing, and how the child must learn. The Act, however, did not envisage the culture, the religious beliefs, the occupation of the parent, the financial ability of the parents to co-fund the child's education, the unforeseen events such as family calamity, national and things like that. The result of not contemplating the aforementioned and factoring inclusiveness in the education system is the bane of the education system. That the government has a budget for education is commendable. However, that this provision is not targeted at promoting inclusiveness is a challenge, demanding that the government budget more money for education without addressing the fundamental flaws in the education system can be likened to feeding a lizard to become an alligator. It can only manifest in promoting corruption and more corruption. The UB Act, the consequences of this assumption is that it has excluded a vast population of Nigerians. And these excluded citizens are threatening the system. With literacy level in Nigeria put at less than 60% among the adult population, and out-of-school children aged between 6 and 16 years representing 23% of the school-age population. This is quoted by UBEC. We cannot but review with the aim of repurposing this system. Poverty, unemployment, underemployment has activated militancy and unrest in 28 states of the Federation. These are evidence of citizens feeling alienated from the GDP. These are evidence of a collapsing social system that can be addressed by equity in the education system. It is time, therefore, to rethink how to engage Nigeria's children in their formative years, how to influence the young ones in their impressionable years, how to intentionally harness the potentials and guide them to a more productive adulthood. One way we can do this is by opening up, widening the education dragnet, leverage on the natural societal structure to bring about inclusiveness. Alternate education program present Nigeria the opportunity to develop an indigenous education system running parallel with the regular or conventional education system, but not inferior to it. Equality of every learner, thereby bringing inclusiveness, acceptability, adaptability, availability, and affordability to education. The term alternate education is not magical. Expecting that because the government introduced it will automatically deliver on the textbook promise is wishful thinking. The policy formulation, therefore, must be intentionally designed to address the lacuna presented to us by the regular school system. We must seek to identify the LBI, our organization, LBI, has been working with the out-of-school children, the street children, and the almanjiris, and their parents for over a decade. We have developed the LBI model as a response to our findings based on qualitative and evidence-based research. We have deployed this model over several cultural spaces and found it effective to attract children back to and to retain them in school. We have also come to the conclusion that whereas the elites are individualistic and are self-driven, the poor and the underserved are community-driven. They rely on the perceived comradeship that exists in a clustered community. When isolated, they are vulnerable, but when in tribal or parochial group, they are stronger. We have we also discover that community leadership is usually ephemeral and always need the civil leadership for authority. The followership enjoyed by the local authority figure is usually tied to the patronage it enjoys from the civil authority. We therefore recommend that the alternate education should take advantage of this, and it must be community driven. The LBI alternate education model and the lesson learned. We must recognize that the regular school system is global in outlook, in curriculum and appeal. Therefore, it must be strengthened for Nigeria to remain relevant in the global intellectual community. However, alternate education must be developed to strengthen the local job market, to promote inclusiveness both in the social and political space and the economy, thereby giving every citizen a sense of partnership and patriotism in the country. It is our opinion that whereas the system and structure of education must remain, the function of government, the methods and content must be liberated to accommodate all shades of learners' temperament and marketplace requirement. I'd like to say this one again. It is our opinion that whereas the system and structure of education must remain the function of government, the methods and content must be liberated to accommodate all shades of learners' temperament and marketplace requirements. Alternate education, therefore, must be viewed in Nigeria as a gradual and intentional strategy of government to wean herself from the overbearing influence in education of enforcing content on the workforce she has no capacity to employ. The government must welcome the involvement of the private and informal sector in the development of relevant employable skills required to increase productivity in the sector. The alternate education must harness individual skills and talents in the learners, which has been downplayed by the regular school. It must create flexibility in learning methods and the tools of measuring and evaluating learning outcomes. The alternative education must redefine school as a place of learning and redefine learning in terms of transferable skills and knowledge required by an individual to be self-reliant, contribute to the GDP, and develop responsible citizenry. This is our recommendation. The government should consciously and specifically amend the Act to include the provision to cover for the underserved children whom the Act did not envisage, just as listed in the introductory note. The government should be specific in the provision of free compulsory basic education as to the clarity of what is free or what is not free. Is tuition free? The accessories and uniform, is it free? Is the cost of paying for exam, is it free? And does this free means free meals and others? In the public and regular government must strengthen the public and the private school system, otherwise regarded as the regular schools, to further produce more white-collar jobs in the society. Government must provide administrative structure to provide for and maintain a supervisory role for the alternative schools. This will include, but not limited to, engage in the governance, administration, curriculum, design, regulation, and monitoring the alternative stream of schools. Such schools, however, must derive its funding as a competitive grant. This grant must be granted subject to fulfilling stipulated conditions, and the participating schools must be a not-for-profit organization with a transparent management and ownership structure. Finally, UBEC should design a specific program to directly cover the process of taking basic education down to the underserved children for inclusiveness. These are the conversations we shall be having. Thank you, and I hope we have a wonderful deliberation. Over to you, Ifeoma.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanwo. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Unfortunately, this is not an event where we're all sitting down together. I'm sure you'd have gotten a standing ovation for your remarks there. And a few things stood out to me while you were talking, particularly on the assumptions that everybody is on the same level playing field, which is, of course, not true. And everybody is also prioritizing education in the same way, and that we, of course, have to review our current education system. And also, it's a good idea that this has come on board, but we need to do the work that is necessary. And we need to be intentional about how we do the job that we do about this, and how we go about ensuring that we have a more inclusive education system in Nigeria. And also, you have thrown to light a lot of things, food for thought for us. It's good that we have Professor Julius here with us, who's the chair of the House Committee on Education here with us, because this opens up a lot of avenues for discussion, way forward, and how we intend to actually ensure that all our children are in school. As was said in the beginning, Nigeria has the highest number of out of school children, and this is a menace that we need to deal with. Thank you very much, Dr. Sanwo, for that, for your opening remarks and for setting the stage. And participants who are listening to us, please, if you have any comments or questions on this, do not hesitate to put it in the chat, and we'll come to this towards the end of the town hall meeting. Now we'll go to our keynote address from Professor Julius Ihovere, the Chair House Committee on Basic Education within the House of Representatives here in Abuja. I'm so sorry, sir, if I mispronounced your name.
No, that's all right.
My sincere apologies. Now over to you for your keynote address. Before you do that, I'd like to just give a brief introduction on you. Of course, as I have already said, you're the Chair House Committee on Basic Education in the Nigeria House of Representatives here in Abuja. You've always been an activist, a scholar, and a researcher. You have been described by the African Center for Democratic Governance as the most widely published academic in the last century, and we are honored to have you here, and honored to listen to what you have to say, and honored that you have given your time to be part of this town hall meeting today. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ifeoma, and let me also thank my brother Sanwo for a very brilliant presentation, which I thought would have sufficed as the keynote. I would just be adding the dots, bringing out the politics of out-of-school children, the politics of alternate education. Not because I'm a politician, but because I believe that unless we appreciate the political dimension of the contradictions and the challenges bedeviling that sector of alternate education, we are unlikely to achieve much. Talk, they say, is cheap. And in Nigeria, we're very good at that. Talking, setting up committees, panels, commissions, inquiries, to come out with reports that nobody ever sees or nobody reads. The starting point of the problem is the national policy on education. Where is the document? How many students have ever seen it? How many teachers have ever read a copy of the national policy? Have we made any effort to take that document to the people and let them see what the philosophy of our education is? What is the education we give to our children supposed to lead to? Just a so-called meal ticket, a little paper, and 44% of them are unemployed all over the place today. Many are taken to criminality, and like many of the elites have admitted recently, they become veritable grounds for recruitment by criminals, from bandits to you name it. So there is a fundamental issue of defining the purpose of education, even at the basic level, beyond what the Act tries to define, 2004. I believe that to narrow it down to the theme of our conversation today, which is on alternate education. If you follow what the Nigerian government says and does, there we have enough interventions, enough programs to deal with out-of-school children, alternate education, to bring in those who are underserved, those who are on the margins. Without wanting to take your time, but just to let you know how serious this matter is, let me mention some of these. Of course, we have the BESDA program, Better Education Service Delivery for All, heavily funded by the World Bank for 17 states to deal with out-of-school children. We have the Nigeria Partnership for Education Project, NIPEP. We have the State Education Program Investment Project, SEPIP, Adolescent Girls Initiative for Learning and Empowerment Project, Nigeria Partnership for Education Projects, Safe Schools Initiative, Innovative Development and Effectiveness in the Acquisition of Skills Project, ideas, Global Partnership for Education Accelerated Funding, Nigeria Education in Emergencies Working Group, Revitalizing Adult and Youth Literacy in Nigeria Project, Increasing Access to Education through National Education Cloud Project, Energizing Education in Nigeria through Renewable Energy, Coding and Robotics Education, the CAN all-in-one ICT-enabled classroom solution and professional concepts, At-Risk Children Program, and we can go on and on. At the same time, we have a National Commission for Adult and Mass Literacy. We have one for nomadic education. We have one for Islamic and Arabic studies, and so on and so on. If we have these, and they are funded every year through appropriation from the National Assembly, why are we having between 10 to 15 million children out of school in Nigeria? Why have we not dealt with this problem? Yes, there is instability, if you like, some sort of war in some parts of the country, particularly in the Northeast. And this has led to the displacement of not just parents, but their children. We have the recent attacks on schools, again, creating problems for parents who are afraid to send their children to school. Even it has gone as far to the southeast, where some state has had to close some schools because they found some bombs and so on and so forth. The point I'm trying to make is that we are not short on policy. We are not short on words. Where we have the problem in this country when it comes to out-of-school children and alternate education is in implementation, in the political will, in consistent funding, not just in how much we pronounce in the budget, but how much we actually release for implementation. So at a level, we must congratulate the federal government again for deeming it necessary to initiate this new alternate education project. If properly handled, just along the lines that Sanwo has outlined, we may be making some move. That is to do things differently, not business as usual, not another commission or committee with a huge bureaucracy, buying cars, recruiting staff, and then you divert attention and resources from the real purpose into running a huge bureaucracy, looking for a big office building with an executive secretary. Once we do that, we may begin to lose the sight of our goal. I believe that this is a federal initiative, but if it is going to work and we're going to have results, we must not leave it at the federal level. The states, the local governments must have robust and committed participation in the process. some discourse that is not yet going on in the country right now is how do we retool the educational system to cope with contemporary challenges and pressures, both from within and outside. The conversation is not going on. Even if we were to get into this conversation through the COVID-19 angle, you find that many states claim, some say there is no COVID. Some say they shut it out. Some advocate that wearing face masks are not necessary. So the point there, therefore, is that there must be a strategy, and I'm happy that the alternate school committee has incorporated the governors forum, the Northern Governors Forum, the Southern Governors Forum, and several other stakeholders into the steering committee, so that we know that everybody is carrying the same message and the same commitment, hopefully. I also think that the states must show more responsibility. We're practicing the federal system. It is not sufficient that when it comes to getting some support from the federal government, all the states rush there. But when it comes to getting policy implemented, you see them keeping quiet as if it does not exist. I don't know how many governors I have seen that have spoken about out-of-school children, beyond a few in the northern part of the country. I have not seen how many of them are talking about the alternate school challenge, problem, or initiative to say, look, we must design a new way of thinking, a new methodology, a new entry point, a new way of evaluating the system, commitment to telling the truth about the challenge and how deep it is, and understanding the implications of delay and neglect. That at the end of the day, running our own personal local governments by sinking your own borehole, building your personal prison, your mansion with high fences and all of it, would not save you from the anger of an uneducated, diseducated, miseducated, and mal-educated bunch of children. The challenge is there, and I think the End SARS protest was just a little signal to what could happen if we do not take the issue of sustainable and productive education very seriously. To know that where the part of the challenge is also where you find a nation with almost 44% unemployment rate, which I believe is conservative, not even discussing technical vocational education training, which is
Hello, Prof. I think we're not hearing you anymore.
Oh, I don't know. Hello, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Now we hear you.
Hello?
We're okay now. Hear you now, Prof.
Okay, let me just quickly round up some of the issues I was trying to raise. So, beyond the initiatives we have, and I think someone has talked about the cost of education, the priorities of the parents, I have not seen any policy that responds to the priorities of the parents and how to compensate for what they lose by sending their children from the fishing rounds or family rounds to school. These are when you have a desperate problem, you get a desperate solution. You cannot just assume that once we announce the policy, everybody would respond. I know of families where the children have to go out hawking every morning. I hawked as a young person before going to school. And I know it is not the best because I always go to school late. And then I served an hour or so of punishment before going into class. I have missed 2 or 3 classes, and this is continuing, and the situation is worse today. And we're not responding to those kind of specifics. So talking about alternate education, therefore, we must consider, do we have the political will? Are we really serious about providing a fundamental, sustainable, long-lasting solution. That is why I said the government must go a little beyond just setting up the committee, the steering committee, but also to enroll other agencies, including civil society, the media, traditional institutions, religious institutions. Make this a national campaign. The benefits far outweigh the costs or the negatives. And it is not a question of resources. It is a question of carefully deploying and managing available resources and getting critical stakeholders to support the process. I think I have been in situations where I talk to parents to bring their children to school, and they tell me, those people who went to school, but they are not working. So what's the point? They are all at home. They are roaming the streets. They are joining courts, smoking all kinds of weeds, fighting themselves and killing each other because they have nothing doing. Now, that is a legitimate argument. And the government must not lose sight of the fact that expanding the economy, encouraging agriculture the way they are trying to do, though I believe the central bank is excessively involved in some of these issues instead of empowering the critical constituencies, will be one way to assure parents that, yes, they may go to school and they would have something doing. We've talked about policy, we've talked about poverty, but the politics of alternate education must not also be overlooked. You know, we must avoid the politicization of public policy so that we can get the results and it will be implemented with effective evaluation and constant monitoring. If we're able to do that, it will have something to say. Let me round up by saying that we must also make schools attractive to the children. We have seen many cases, not just talking about Malala, in spite of the efforts to prevent her from going to school, she insisted on going. But we have cases in Nigeria where just infrastructural improvements, training and retraining of teachers, provision of playground and so on, the children demand that they want to go to school. Now, as chairman basic education, we've gone around some states on oversight to see what they have been doing with the billions they've been collecting from UBEC as matching grants. And you find it very embarrassing. In 2021, to find schools without toilets, they ask them, how do they ease themselves? They say they go to the bush or behind the building. No water in the schools. And we say they should wash their hands, sanitation. You find there's no playground in primary one, crèche, no playground for little kids. You just put them in a classroom and they sit there for all day with a short break. So governments must feel embarrassed. How do we now attract those who are outside into the school when the school itself doesn't look like a school? So some states like Lagos, Ekiti, they are doing some model schools, which I believe, if sustained and other states copy along with it, we will have a situation where schools become attractive to parents and to pupils, and they will come in there to, and the fact that we must take education to the people. And I think that is one of the strategies we must employ this time. We cannot build this school and sit there with the teacher and expect all of them to come. No, we have to be creative and innovative in how we take education to the people. You know, there has to be what fits people in the city may not be good for those in the rural or riverine areas. And there must be ways that some may be available in the evening. We must be available to do that for them if we really want to educate them. But like I said, technical vocational education training must be the way out. Many of them have that ability to adapt and adjust and make themselves relevant, become self-employed in the future and useful to society, rather than going around with CVs and certificates looking for office jobs when the bureaucracy is already oversaturated. I think I would want to stop here for now. We may be able to have further discussions. what Sanwo mentioned about methods, about content, about strategy, very germane to this conversation, and strengthening the institutions in the education sector. Many of the agencies under my committee are so weak that they cannot even retool, much less engage in any serious intervention in pushing education forward. They're poorly funded, the money is not released, they can't even buy diesel for their generators, they can't pay their security staff. You find schools without perimeter fencing in this current era. So I think there are so many issues, but it's a question of strategy, political will, commitment, focus, and a desire to truly make a difference. And I think the current alternate school committee with the technical working committee that has just been, technical working group that has just been set up, and I'm glad someone like Sanwo is a member, will change the narrative and produce some results that we've all been looking for. I want to thank you for the time, and I hope I have not used more than 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Yeah, that was very, 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 very. Oh, yes, you can hear the claps already from the different quarters here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
much.
Prof. Thank you.
Thank you.
You highlighted quite a number of challenges, talked about a few solutions as well. And like you said, we will have an opportunity to have a bit more on this in terms of probably getting responses from you on some of the solutions that we have in mind here. I will be proffering later. But just to highlight quickly some of the things that you said that were very, very important in terms of for alternate education, political will, ensuring that we're following the right methods for implementation, and consistency in funding and resourcing, capacity strengthening for all the institutions that would be involved in doing this, and ensuring that we have the right people in the right places. So we have like the round pegs and the round holes, like we say. And also, one of the key things that you said when you started that really hit me was that talk is cheap. We are very good at coming up with beautiful documents, policies, sometimes miss the mark on the policies, of course, but we're very good at doing this. You reeled out a whole number of policies for education that we have in Nigeria. But what are we doing with this? How do we make sure and ensure that all these are working together and symbiotic in terms of helping one another to ensure that we reach the destination that we want to get to? And it is always a paradox and very difficult to understand that Nigeria, with all the resources it has, all the brilliant minds that we have here in this country, we still have the highest number of people, children out of school in the country. So this is a critical issue that we need to talk about, and I'm sure we'll have more questions for you later on in the course of the town hall meeting. Thank you once again for highlighting these issues and also some of the critical solutions, and also talking about making schools attractive, which is very, 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 very important. It's sad that in our 21st century, you still have schools that are under trees, even within the FCT here itself. Thank you so much. Thank you for your profound contribution to this town hall meeting. And with that said, now we will be going to the next item on the agenda, which is a presentation from Dr. Aina Madziga, the Deputy Chief of Party for a USA-funded project called the Accelerated Education Program, and she'll be making a presentation on the perspectives from the US-funded project itself. So before I hand over to Dr. Aina, I would ask that please, if you're not speaking, if you can kindly just mute your mic, because it creates an echo and the other listeners are unable to hear us. Thank you so much for that. So, Dr. Aina is an advocacy for equity in education. She's, as I said already, the Deputy Chief of Party for the US-funded Accelerated Education Program implemented by FHI 360. For more than 20 years, she has worked to improve education and gender equity in different parts of Nigeria, and has designed and evaluated girls' education programs in Katsina, Kebbi, Sokoto, and Zamfara states. From 2015 to 2017, she was a key consultant for the UNICEF Safe Schools Initiative in Adamawa State. With that said, I will now invite Dr. Anna Badzega for her presentation. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Ifoma. Somebody has my presentation and they need to project it.
Oh, yes.
Because I could
the back end team is supposed to be helping with that. So if you can hear me, please, can you start
I can hear you
Doctor's
clearly.
presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you so. Okay.
Dr. David, I forwarded the presentation to your email. Is that accessible to you? And can you share?
Okay, I'll check that. Yes, I'll check it now.
Okay.
Doctor, do you want to start with a little brief before your presentation comes up?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the Honorable Chairman, House Committee on Education, for that very elaborate remark. And he has said so many things that really resonates with me and that have really touched me. And being a Northerner, I know all the things that worries or plagues us where education is concerned, because it's pretty much the problem of out of school children is pretty much a northern problem. And in the 90s, I have worked in the Northwest, particularly during the issues of access for the girl child education in particular. And education is not attractive at all in the North. Schools are not where parents want their children to be. And it's been compounded with insurgency, it's been compounded with banditry, with kidnappings, because we have schools under the trees, we have schools without perimeter fence, we have schools without toilets, we have schools without water. It's not attractive for the girl child, it's not attractive for anybody. It's not a better environment, you know, for the children, because I should think that for schools to be attractive, it should be better than where I'm coming from. It should be better than home. I mean, in the house, they have toilets. They come to the school, there are no toilets. So there are just so many problems. And I'm just wondering, when are we going to get these things right? When are we going to make education attractive and even useful? Because when you preach to them to let their children come to school, they will tell you, look at so, malama so, she has finished, he has finished, there is no work. They are not any better than their children who have not gone to school. So it really grieves my heart. I just want us to have a functional education where even children are not going to school because of white-collar job. They are going to school to, even if they want to fry akara, they improve on frying akara. They make their akara better than somebody who is doing it on the street. That is the kind of education I want us. And until we get there, we're going to have real challenges. So having said that, I'm so glad to be here to share with us on this panel on accelerated basic education. Next slide. Oh, it's so tiny. Go to the next slide and probably make it a bit larger. Slide 2. Yeah, can you make it a bit larger? So by way of introduction, what is the problem? Why accelerated education? So you can see that on my right, globally, it says there are 263 million children and young people out of school today. That is the population of some countries. I think that is even more than Nigerian population. Imagine the population of Nigeria being out of school. And the source of this is, I still can't see it very well. I'm tempted to just go ahead and use my own. This is not just some numbers that were taken from somewhere, but it's from the UNESCO 2016 Leaving No One Behind research. That is where this number is coming from. 236 million children and young people out of school globally today. So what is the reason? Conflict, poverty, and other forms of marginalization often preclude children from entering schools. And in the first place, or force them to drop out of schools earlier than they should. The most vulnerable and marginalized often displaced children and young people, combatants, girls, and children with disability are more likely to find it difficult to access and complete their education. Yet, passage of the Sustainable Development Goals reaffirms a global commitment to ensuring that all boys and girls will have access to and complete free, equitable, and quality primary education by 2030. The SDGs are based on the fundamental premise of leaving no one behind and starting with those furthest behind. Yet, for many overage, out-of-school children and youths, the formal schooling system may no longer be a viable option. Remember the other presenter from the Life Builder talked about the UBE Act, and it was presumed that everybody, with that act, everybody has access to education and is as simple as it goes. But you can see that from here, it's not like that. Even the SDG assumes that by 2030, every child should get an education. So what role might accelerated education play? 1, national education policies often preclude learners from enrolling after a certain age, and the Honorable has already talked about policy. Additionally, overage learners often who do not enroll in formal education systems are found to be much more likely to drop out early, with this phenomenon particularly true amongst households living in poverty. Secondly, often when overage children return to school, there is not only a risk of overcrowding classrooms and difficult teaching conditions with multiple age ranges, but there are also considerable protection risks in mixing older and younger children in one class. Imagine an 18-year-old or a 15-year-old in grade 1. That cannot mix. Thirdly, in response, the Education 2030 Framework for Action identifies the need for non-formal and informal education programming, which affords flexible and alternative pathways and entry and re-entry points into the formal education system. Importantly, it is acknowledged that the knowledge, skills, and competencies acquired in these programs should be recognized, validated, and accredited. Accelerated education programming serves both mandates. Accelerated education programs are used to promote access to certified education for children and adolescents who have missed out on substantial amounts of schooling. So what are the accelerated education programs? Number 1, they are flexible, age-appropriate programs run in an accelerated time frame which aim to provide access to education for disadvantaged, overage, out-of-school children and youths, particularly those who missed out on their education or interrupted due to poverty, marginalization, conflict, and crisis. The goal of accelerated education program is to provide learners with equivalent certified competencies for basic education using effective teaching and learning approaches that match their level of cognitive maturity. Accelerated education emphasizes acceleration of a curriculum and allows students to complete a certified equivalent level of education in a shortened time frame. This requires increased and more effective time on task and emphasis on literacy and numeracy with a social-emotional learning component and otherwise removal of non-core subjects. So especially in our accelerated basic education programming in AENN, we have basic literacy and numeracy and social and emotional learning. Accelerated education programs are often demonstrate flexibility to meet the unique needs of the learners they aim to serve, both in relation to time tabling and location of instructions. The intention of this flexibility is to enable students to study in a way and at a level appropriate to their ability, age, and circumstances. On completion of accelerated education program, the intention is for learners to reintegrate into formal schooling system, enter into skill-based technical and vocational education, or to enter directly into the workforce, but with core literacy and numeracy skills in place. So there's a convergence in front with formal schooling from accelerated education program. There are varied structures of an accelerated education program, and these vary in their pace of acceleration, the age range, the target, and the approach to teaching and learning that they employ. While AEP normally covers most of all of the primary education, some AEPs have also been extended to the secondary level. So our accelerated education program in AENN, for example, we have basic and then we have post-literacy 1 and 2. At the end of those trainings, you're able to either go to grade 4, or you're able to go to JSS 1 directly. It is, however, important to note that AEPs are distinct from other forms of alternative education. And I will just quickly run us through the principles of accelerated basic education so that we know why it is different from other alternative forms of education. It is because accelerated education are flexible and for overage learners. Curriculum, materials, and pedagogy are genuinely accelerated. Accelerated education learning environment is inclusive, is safe, and is learning ready. All children or youths of all backgrounds are welcome and accepted into the accelerated basic education program. Teachers are recruited, supervised, and remunerated. Teachers participate in continuous professional development. And then on program management, the goals and the monitoring and funding for accelerated education align. Accelerated education centers are effectively managed. Our centers are effectively managed and also monitored on a regular basis. Community engagement is very key. So community is engaged and is accountable. And then accelerated basic education is aligned with Ministry of Education and policy frameworks, so much so that accelerated education is legitimate, is credible education option that results in learner certification in primary education, and is also aligned with the national education system and relevant humanitarian architecture. That is why it is different from other alternative forms of education. So in Nigeria, there was a need. Nigeria recognized the need to ensure effective coordination and management of diverse learners. We have the Almajiris, we have the girl child education, we have out-of-school children, vulnerable youths and adults, especially in emergency and crisis states, which led to the formation of the Education in Emergency Group. That was done in 2012. And then the Federal Ministry of Education, other international development partners were part of this. And then in 2015, at the height of the insurgency, and 2016, state-level working groups were established, especially in the Northeast. And then also in 2012, the Education in Emergency supported the massive flooding that took place in various states in Nigeria. Right now, there are more than 90 members of the Education in Emergency working group, especially development partners who are the ones that are implementing accelerated education, basic education in Nigeria. So formally, in 2018, following the large number of out-of-school children in Nigeria occasioned by insurgency in the Northeast, the Federal Ministry of Education at the National Council of Education presented for adoption and approval the Accelerated Education Program as an alternative basic education program for out-of-school youth and children in Nigeria. So the NERDC is working towards the development of National Accelerated Basic Education Implementation Guidelines, and the guidelines will set a clear path for the harmonization of all programs and projects focused on eradication of out-of-school children phenomenon in Nigeria. So that guideline is going to help every actor that comes in to implement non-formal learning in Nigeria. Importantly, NERDC, in collaboration with its partners, AENN Inclusive, under the auspices of the Federal Ministry of Education, is planning for a national rollout on the implementation of AEP in Nigeria. Already, Plan International supported NERDC to develop and print out the curriculum on accelerated education program, and then also the basic materials that are going to be used have also been finalized, and AENN's material was 60% part of the materials at the basic level. AENN is also working with NERDC to work on the post-literacy materials, because accelerated basic education has the basic component and the post-literacy component. So already the curriculum has been developed and materials for basic program has been developed. NERDC, in partnership with AENN activity, has adapted post-literacy materials, and lessons have been scripted in maths, English, science, and Nigerian history and value. It is awaiting review and validation. So I've been talking about the AENN project. It's called Addressing Education in Northeast Nigeria. It's sponsored or funded by USAID and is implemented in Borno and Yobe states. And our aim is to reach 302,500 children and youths through safe, non-formal and formal education opportunities. And we work in 8 LGAs in both states and in 150 communities. The award value of our activity is $17 million plus US dollars. And our partners are Save the Children and Viamo. And we have key Nigerian partners, which are the suburbs, the SAMEs, the universities, the CBOs, who are managing our non-formal learning centers, as I had said earlier. So in the 3 years that we have been implementing, we have been able to enroll more than 140,000 children, and 53 of those are female and 47 are male. And if you look at, I don't know if they are able to project my screen, but for Borno State, going by displacement status, 72% of our learners are IDPs, 24 are from the host communities, 4% are returnees. In Yobe, 40% are IDPs, 56 from the host communities, and 4% are returnees. In Borno State, we have 92 children with no disabilities, and 8% of our learners are children with disabilities, minor disabilities. And then in Yobe State, 88% of our learners are without disabilities, and 12% are with one form of disability or the other. So by way of impacts, our accelerated education program has been able to employ 900 learning facilitators. What this simply means is that it has improved peace, socioeconomic status, quality of education, reduction in out-of-school children, and high demands for education in our communities. We have also been able to transit more than 21,000 children into formal schools in both year 1 and year 2. And then we have more than 1,000 government officials and other stakeholders whom we have trained to have capacity to plan, manage, and implement education in emergencies. We also have reduced the number of out-of-school children in both Borno and Yobe states. And I have stated in one of the points on accelerated basic education on community engagement. Because accelerated basic education is not done in isolation, is a community thing, we have been able to train and mobilize community members in 8 of the LGS. We have what we call our community coalition members. They are members of the communities who have been chosen to be vanguards for education in those communities. And they have done a whole lot, from monitoring the non-formal learning centers to enrollment campaigns, and to monitoring the non-formal learning centers, monitoring attendance, monitoring even the LFs to ensure that they teach children in these non-formal learning centers. We also have what we call our community-based community-based committees, who are like our SBMCs, and they see to the management of the non-formal learning centers in their communities. We have our CBOs, who are the ones that are directly managing the learning facilitators, paying them and ensuring that they do their work. So they monitor those non-formal learning centers on a regular basis. This is what we're doing. And we have had fantastic results from the learning outcomes, baseline and the end lines that we have carried out in year 2. You can see that there's improvement in reading and basic numeracy skills by children. On the right is the baseline, and on the left is the, on the left is the baseline in blue, and the right, the end line in orange. And so percentage of learners with 0 scores. So for subtraction, at the baseline, we had 30% of children, but at the end line, we have only 14%. Same thing with addition, we had 23%. At the end line, we had 10%. For number identification, at the baseline, we had 15%. At the end line, we had 7%. For reading comprehension, at the baseline, we had 31%, and at the end line, we had 19%. This is in Borno, and the other one is in Yobe State. Social and emotional learning is one of the key things for our non-formal learning, especially for children in Borno and Yobe State. And you can see that at the baseline, looking at children with improved emotional stability. And when I say improved emotional stability, at the beginning, when these children came, there were aggression. You could see that there was restiveness, there was aggression, there was just giddiness amongst the children. But you know, with time, as they were coming to the non-formal learning center, and there was social emotional learning as part of the component of the education or the learning activities that they receive, you know, children were able to stabilize, they were calmer, and they were more coordinated, and they were more responsive, you know, in the teaching and learning activities that were taking place. So these are some of the things that we have been able to achieve in the past 3 years, and we're about rounding up. And so accelerated basic education is surely one of the ways to go in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Matiga. This was very enlightening, and also it was very interesting to listen to your presentation, particularly on the links of accelerated basic education to all the assumptions and important key points that both Dr. David and Prof had mentioned in the previous presentations.
Thank you.
Yes, some of the key things that um, struck me while you were talking was that the uniqueness of how this program works. It's tailored to address the unique needs of the participants of the accelerated education basic education program, and how eventually the whole idea is to ensure that they are still brought into the formal education sector, and then they're able to harness the skills which they have learned during the basic education program to enhance themselves while they're doing this. And you can see from even your presentation, from the presentation, the keynote address, and also from the presentation from Dr. David, that every single thing that we're talking about here is linked on how we ensure that we transition from one point to the other, addressing the key needs of the unique and specific individuals that we're dealing with. So thank you very much for this, Doctor. I also noted here that you talked about one of the things that has been thrown out as one of the byproducts, in quotes, of not having a proper education system, which is being able to be employed or even being employable. And your program has created employment opportunities for at least 900 people. And these are things that we need to emulate as well. So if we do things right, we do not only educate people, but create easy access to very important social economic and addressing basic social economic needs of our communities as well. So with that being said, I'm sure we're going to have questions for you during the question and answer session. Thank you so much for this, Dr. Matiga. Thanks a lot. With that being said, I will now move over to the next presentation on the agenda, which is on Show Me the Money, Financing Alternate School. And we will be getting this from Ms. Kimberly Geyer. She's the founder of the Global Women Leaders. She's a Global Women Leaders, by the way, is a vibrant community of women and change leaders from around the world dedicated to leveraging their skills, the network they have, innovative thinking, funding, to the extent that they reached and impact the lives of all the humanitarian partners, people who are working in hard to reach areas, people who are helping to save lives, and also helping to build resilience around the world. She had a career in banking and finance, reached the level of a senior executive, and was previously the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, for the retail business and private banking divisions of Westpac Banking Corporation, and has worked extensively in the international capital markets with Citibank. As a strategic philanthropist, which is what she's doing right now, Kimberly donates her professional skills and experience in capital markets, treasury, and structured finance to support humanitarian and development organizations as pro bono special advisor to the International Committee of the Red Cross, the World Bank, UNHCR, UNICEF, Swiss Cross Foundation, and of course, my own very United Nations World Food Program. So thank you very much, Kimberly, for your time, and I'll hand over to you now for your presentation. Kimberly, you're still muted. Do you want to go, or you have to unmute?
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you so much for that very kind introduction. Thank you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, speakers, Dr. Senwo, for the kind invitation, and an initiative very close to my heart, Life Builders Initiative, who brought me to this panel today. My presentation is from the heart. It is as a philanthropist, as a banker, and as a mother of 5. The out-of-school children situation in Nigeria has been on my mind for many years. I donate my time, my skill set, my funds, and my connections to try to bring new solutions through financing and philanthropy to tackle challenges such as this, in partnership with civil society, with government, with educators, and with groups like Life Builders Initiative. There were several things in the previous speaker's comments that really resonated with me tonight, and that is, we are not short on policy. Talk is cheap, and we need to actually implement consistent funding for these kids. You know, they're waiting on us. They are all ready to go, and we need to come together and find solutions to get funding and solutions to provide alternative education for kids. This is not business as usual, and that's why I donate my time to work together with you to find ways to bring new models of funding to help bring this to life. We have political will, and it's not a question of resources, for sure. There is money out there. There are philanthropists, there are governments, there are investors who are willing to put their money up front to prove that these models can work. And importantly, we do have models that do work. We've heard just now from our speaker on the USAID-backed funded program. We have Life Builders Initiative, which got my attention because it is a holistic model. As a parent and as a former foster parent, I can tell you that if you don't have the health and the economic empowerment and the societal integration components of education and inclusive innovation with the communities that support these kids, we will not make it. And so first and foremost, having good models that we can build a solution around and bring financing to is the starting point. And I am so encouraged by Nigeria, by Professor Julius and the other speakers, that the readiness is there. And what we need to do is move beyond talking. Talk is cheap. And the banker in me will say, let's start. Let's pick a program, let's pick a context, let's pick something that we know works. And Dr. Sanwo and his family have been doing this for 10 years with Life Builders Initiative. We have solutions and models and proof that we can do this and bring kids through the education system in a way that is designed around them and their families and their communities. And the financing is actually the easiest part. There is nothing innovative about finance. All the tools exist. Philanthropy exists. We have impact-based, outcomes-based models, impact bonds, Islamic philanthropy, pooled funds for Africa that are bringing money more directly to civil society organizations. That's the easy part. What I would like to pledge to you as a community and as a group of solution builders is that I will donate my time and my community and my thought process to find a way to bring money to scale these programs. You know, enough is enough. You know, there are so many kids waiting on us, and I welcome the opportunity to work with all of you to start on a transaction and actually let's get this going. In terms of examples, there are some great strides being made. Educate Girls in India did the first development impact bond. For those of you not familiar, an impact bond is just a way of upfronting financing through investors in this case, who are willing to put their money upfront to test a model. In India, this was trying to bring girls' education, out-of-school kids, getting kids on a 3-year program. And at the end of the day, when the outcomes are achieved and the measurements are made, then the government steps in and repays those initial investors. This is a tool that we could use in this example. There are other pooled funding models. The African Visionary Fund is a great example of funding going directly to impactful models such as LBI or FHI 360, where we can sort of cut out some of the traditional bureaucracy and test bringing diaspora funding, Islamic philanthropy, and other tools to test these models. So I might stop there and take any questions in the next section. But my pledge to you is let's work together. Let's start. Let's not work on white papers. Let's actually work on some solutions that we can work on together and get going. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kimberly. That's straight down to action. And yeah, thank you very much for muting your mics. Echoing exactly what the other speakers have said, particularly what the keynote speaker said, Prof. Talk is cheap. We need to put our money where our mouth is. And I'm sure as a friend of LBI, you've been doing quite a bit with them right now. And thanks for your commitment and dedication of your time and your own personal resources to this initiative. Of course, during the conversations that follow, we would be talking about some of these tools that you say already exist and we can tap into, which is very critical for why you are here as well, because money is the bedrock of most of the things that we need to talk about and we need to do. Something that struck me as well is what you talked about, where the impact bonds, I think we need to be able to create a bit more awareness around those as well. Thank you very much, Kimberly, for this. Thank you very much to all the speakers and the keynote address from Prof. We thank you very much for your time. Dr. Madziger, thank you for your time. Of course, Dr. David, this is your show, and thank you for your time as well. Thank you very much for your time. I will be handing over the next session now, which is the panel discussion, to the co-facilitator. I see you smiling. I see you smiling. Apologies, I'm not on camera. I noticed that whenever I put the camera on, it tends to slow my I think my bandwidth is not carrying it, so it tends to slow down, so I go off camera again. So over to you now. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Ifoma, for a wonderful coordination of the sessions so far. I must say that the summary you have provided and the recap are good reinforcement to the wonderful texts we have from our various experts. I've followed with keen interest how all of them have taken with great interest and elucidation the subject matter, establishing interesting connections. From Dr. David, whose major point of attack is the Yobek Act that he analyzed like a senior advocate of Nigeria, taking it sections by sections and analyzing the various issues related to implementation and the sincerity thereof. I will say that the remark from Professor Evohore, the Chairhouse Committee on Education, one word I will say that it was a frank talk, talking about all the disappointments that the funds are budgeted, they are not released. He focused on retooling, that the institutions that are meant to really work this out are not properly equipped, are not properly personneled. All these are really essential problems. I like his lexicons on issues of uneducated, miseducated, mal-educated children, and that is simply the situation we have at hand. And unless we begin to really admit our challenges and get to know that it's not about big buildings, is about real interventions that are impactful, then we really can't make the difference that is required. Some of these statements can only come from people like him, and I'm happy that he decided to speak that frank. And I hope that through their various oversight functions, they will see that the desired difference is met. Dr. Anna, of course, I don't expect less with all the good work you are doing through the AEP program under ANN, funded by USAID and implemented by FHI 360. I think you have given us a technical take, given a specific instance of how this can be done with good numbers and impact. That's how to do it. We should be impact driven, and your presentation has given us all the insight. Kimberly, I think one thing that I must say is a revelation for me is to know that money is not a problem. And I can see that you have justified it from various examples, models that you know. A moment will come when a person like Professor Evohare will react. We can't help bringing you really into this work directly so that we can see how all the funds around the globe and within the country can be mobilized to support that. Money is everything, and we always consider it to be the biggest problem. And I can agree truly that is about showing one how the money is used and it starts coming. But when money is being invested and nobody sees where it goes, that is the greatest disincentive to funding. So we appreciate the donation of your thoughts, time, goodwill to this initiative. These have really set the stage for our panel session, and I have my great panel members waiting. Of course, I must admit that I have some mortality of panel members with one or two that are not here. But I believe that those that I have on board are representative enough to speak on the subject. So I can see that we have Mohammed Sabo Keana as one of the panel members. We have who is here with us. Ibrahim Tudu is also here with us. I'll introduce them when it is time for their take on the questions that I have for them. Barista Zainab is also here. So if any panel member, those are the 3 out of 6 that I know, and I need to be notified as others join the call. So I will start with Mohammed Sabo Keana. Mohammed Sabo Keana is a team lead of the Almajiri Child Rights Initiative, ACRI. ACRI is a support and accountability organization that mobilizes, support, and amplify the call for the street connected children in Nigeria, education and social inclusion of vulnerable children. Mohammed has been able over the last 3-5 years to take the issue of Almajiri to national and global stage. From going to the National Assembly and making presentations, going to the field and projecting the state of Almajiri in seminars, workshop, that has earned him multiple awards globally, including a graduate program in Oxford. I always asked whether Mohammed has left for his well-deserved award, and he still tells me that he's in Nigeria. We can't wait for Mohammed to really go out there and get more global perspective and add value to the good work he is doing under ACRI. Mohammed, it's such a pleasure to have you on this call. My question for you, you have heard all about alternate schools as launched in Nigeria, the committee, the perspectives from various speakers. How do you relate the conversation on Almajiri phenomenon with the one on alternate schools?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not sure you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Very well, Mohammed. I can hear you.
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
But let me confirm from other speakers. Can you hear Mohammed?
Yes,
yeah,
we hear him.
Good.
Yes.
So go on, please.
Okay, thank you very much for also having me. It has been a wonderful program hearing from the previous speakers. And so my own take on the alternate school program that is being rolled out to address the challenge of out of school children. I will be speaking from the human rights or child right perspective as an advocate for children's rights. And one of the things that I keep telling people when I go to engage on the issue of Almajiri children and their right to education is that of issue of inclusion and fairness, like every other children, you know. So when we talk about the right of education to Almajiri children, for us in ACRI, we look at it on the prism of equitable and non-discriminatory, for them to also have education like the one that every other children have. Having said that, the alternate school program that has been designed now, honestly, I do hope it addresses the challenge, and it's my prayer that it does. I mean, the honorable member that spoke earlier on said a lot of things that also resonate with me in terms of policy, in terms of programs, and in terms of models. and they have not really addressed the situation. So how different will this be? So for me, I'm hopeful that the alternate school and program will work for Almajiri children. But before then, I think it's important we appreciate the fact that achieving education for the Almajiri children is not the end of the phenomenon of the Almajiri phenomenon itself, And so for us, we are looking for a model or an approach that will, in a way, prevent us or address the phenomenon in a more sustainable way. So I don't know how the structure of the alternate school program that is being proposed looks like, but I hope it's able to answer some 3 questions around that I hope it's able to answer 3 questions that I've kind of drafted, just so that we can be able to measure some level of success compared to other programs. And these questions are around how well is it structured, to be able to address the content of the needs of the Almajiri children. I'm talking about now the issue of the quality of what is going to be taught to the children. If you are going to teach them an education, I'm interested in knowing or in an education that can guarantee some level of progression for the Almajiri child. So if the arrangement is to just teach them maths and English, and then you also add vocational skills. For me, I think seriously that also undermines the intent of the SDG 4.5, which talks about equity and inclusion, and that equity, the SDG 4.5 talks about equity and inclusion. And if you look at what that means, it means providing very fair opportunity for children to have a kind of education outcomes that every other child should have, for their future aspiration. So, for instance, if we kind of limit the education provision for Almajiri to just maths and English and vocational skills, it means some of the children who may have aspiration to become medical doctors, become engineers, become even politicians and all of that in the future, because you have limited their the educational access to just maths and English, you have kind of deprived them on that of that opportunity, which for me is not nice. And the second category of question I want to ask that the technical committee need to also ask around this alternate school program as affect the Almajiri children is the reach. We have millions of these children scattered around the communities and cities and around. I want to know how they should be able to picture how the number of children that they are able to reach within the next 5 years, but most importantly, will it prevent more of the children from coming to the Almajiri system? Or I don't know how the alternate school program will kind of manage that, but it's important that the technical committee are able to look around this issue of the number of children that the program is hoping to also target. And then the third issue I want to also raise around this particular question is the issue of efficiency. That has to do with the cost per child. If we are not talking about bringing this intervention to the children where they live, where in the various Almajiri setups. I know in Kano State alone, there are more than 25,000 Almajiri schools, according to some census I read some years ago. So I want to understand, I don't know how feasible is it for this alternate school initiative to be implemented across the state. And my concern has to do with the efficacy of the intervention around the feeding, the hostels, accommodation, the teaching. How effective, how cost effective will that arrangement be? And then the other critical question again that we also need to the technical team need to also look at, it has to do with the issue of what they should look out for, which is unintended consequences of the practice, the sustainability of it, the probability of success. And like I mentioned earlier on, there is so much. I mean, some of the speakers did highlight that there are money out there to use and all of that. But again, we have seen several programs that have not been sustainable beyond a particular administration. I wish is this particular structure, in that is this structure to be able to outlive this present administration in terms of financial sustainability, in terms of administrative sustainability, and in terms of the social norm and some underlying factors that elicit the Almajiri practice in the first place. So I've argued this with the people from UBEC at some point, and also the UNICEF education chief, and they agree with the fact that the issue of education for the Almajiri children is beyond making the school attractive, as some of the panelists suggested. It's also beyond some of this intervention in terms of school building that we have been proposing. It's beyond that. And so unless the technical committee also look at some of these issues around unintended consequences and probability of success of the alternate school program, it may not be able to achieve its goals. So I hope they also look through it. And then the last of the questions that we also have to look at is on the issue of scalability, replicability, and the catalytic effect of the program. Can this program, I mean, Prof mentioned about this is a federal program, and then we know that the primary education is supposed to be for state and local government. Can this be a program or a model that can be easily scaled and replicated within the state, and most importantly for local governments to independently adopt to address some of this the challenge of other schools practice within their community? So these are some of the questions and part to success that I want the technical committee to be able to x-ray the alternate school model that they have right now, so that it can be able to succeed in achieving the education goals they are proposing for the Almajiri children. So having made this comment around the success of the practice, I want to also mention very strongly around about the issue of right to equitable and non-discriminatory education. It's very, very important for me and for all of us to note that it is not it's not correct. It undermines everything. It even undermines the constitution and some of those UBEC law we've quoted previously. It says compulsory equitable education for children. And if this arrangement is going contrary to those, it's only it's only a matter of time you'll be falling back to the square one. And so for me and from our organization, we strongly believe that the way to go about this is, one, implementing the laws, that protect children to have access to education, and most importantly, increasing investment in education around structures and around teachers and all of that at the community level. This will be a much sustainable approach to addressing this in the long time. And again, before I stop, when we're talking about education and skills for children as contained in the alternate school program, we should be mindful about the age. The Almajiri children that some of us that we talk for are within the age gap of some of them 3, 4, 5, 8, and all of that. Just some 12 and above. And this form the huge percentage of the children that are of school age that are on the street. And so, at what point do you begin to introduce vocational skills and all of that to them? Because I mean, even in the SDG targets, the point of where children are exposed to vocational training is almost in at the age where they are able to handle it and all of that. So for me, my concern here is that I strongly believe that the alternate school program, I hope it really works, but my concern is, will it address the phenomenon that bring children to the street in the name of Almajiri and all of that? So my concern and my hope is that it does not conceal the problem, and it does not also take away the government responsibility in protecting children to have equitable and non-discriminatory education. So, Madam, I will stop here. I don't know if I'm speaking too much, but I will stop here just for further questions if you have.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Mohammed. You have actually spoken with a lot of sense and a lot of messages, a lot of points to ponder. You raised germane points around issues of right to education, and your emphasis on quality of content is really critical. We heard you talk about how it should go just beyond math, English, and vocational training, that it provides a full package that can allow the child to realize their full potential. Issue of efficiency is also critical that you raised. What is the cost per child? And I think this relates with corruption result issues that previous speakers raised. And of course, sustainability, not just something that will go with one government that is out. So we really had you, and this is a great addition to the overall conversation. I think your last point on age, somehow a policy like the AEP presented by Dr. Anna addresses that significantly. Because for AEP is from age 10. Anything less than that is a normal enrollment, and relevant government departments have to begin to take responsibility. And I think we need to look at the act very well, assign responsibility, especially to states, and ensure that they are doing something about it. During the weekend, I attended a session in which somebody made a presentation and highlighted just 3 issues related to monitoring education. Issues of availability, is it available? If it is available, is it qualitative? If it is qualitative, what is the cost? So these are really 3 important things that I see so connected to your presentation. Thank you for adding to the volume of thoughts on this subject. I'll quickly go to Barrister Zainab, who is a lawyer and an on-air personality, presenter of Street Children on Radio Nigeria, Abuja. To save time, this much I can say about Zainab. Program is much known and well followed by a number of Nigerians, and those thoughts also well spread. Barrister Zainab, thank you for joining us in the studio today to participate in this conversation. My take to you is that you are involved with publicity through the program that I've just mentioned. And we know that in the world we live, communication, publicity are key to the implementation of just anything, especially new programs like the one of alternate education that we are having at hand. So from your experience engaging with the media on Street Children, how do you see the media playing a role in the success of alternate school program? If you can speak for some 3-4 minutes, I'm sorry I didn't set this standard, but that will help. Thank you, and over to you, Barrister Zainab.
No problem. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, very well.
Hello? Okay.
I can hear you.
Well, just like you said, while introducing, you talked about the role of the media. The media is quite fundamental, not just at this issue of the alternate school program. In whatever you do, you need the media to publicize whatever you're doing so that at least if it
Oh, I can't hear Barrister Zainab anymore. Okay,
I
be
believe
patient
we just
for
lost her. I believe we just lost her. She probably has connectivity issues.
Okay, all right. So I think, yeah, while waiting for her to return, and time is not on our side. We are just 4 minutes away from 1 p.m. that we designed to be the end of this call. We have Alhaji Ibrahim Tudu on the call, who is the chairman of the Panacea coalition of NGOs. Alhaji Ibrahim Tudu has on this platform more than 150 NGOs affiliated. He's an accomplished publisher. His passion is in people skills that led to the formation of a strong NGO in Zamfara State. Alhaji Ibrahim Tudu, how do you see civil societies and NGOs supporting the alternate school program? Of course, we had Prof in his take mention this. So it's such an interesting connection that we have you on board to speak on behalf of civil societies and the coalition you lead. If you are with us, Alhaji Tudu, please respond to the question on the role of civil societies in supporting the alternate school program.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I think I would like to thank the organizers of this very program and also to show my appreciation for hearing from a lot of people that are already doing what the NGOs are supposed to do. Because you can see there is a lot of linkage on all of those things happening in education, and is driven by the intervention of our NGOs, international donors, and other supporting local NGOs. Well, I would like to start by actually using the United Nations philosophy on ending violence. As they say, we must silence the guns and end all insecurities. They have a reason for saying that because there is nothing that can move, however well planned, when there is an atmosphere of insecurity and other things that has direct disruption on especially education. We are living witness of what is happening, especially in my state, Zamfara, the issue of insecurity, the banditry, and even the issue that has to do with the national and international issues of COVID and poverty. All those things have direct impact on whatever measures we are taking. But, NGOs, as far as we are concerned, I don't need to emphasize on this. NGOs are non-governmental. They are voluntary associations of people and communities. And they work at local, regional, national, or international level. So their impact and contribution is very important. And we welcome this alternate school program. I'm happy to hear from the House Committee Chairman on Education. I think they know the issues. And I think with this, the inclusion of civil society in the technical committee or the steering committee will help a lot. Many different non-governmental organizations support education in Africa and in Nigeria also. So numerous to mention: UNESCO, USAID, UNICEF, Save the Children, Oxfam, and others. So they are working. They are helping and intervening in all the issues of education and other interventions, especially this alternate school program. So many civil society and unions also has to be on board. The Nigerian Union of Teachers, the African Education Trust, the National Council of Child Rights Advocates of Nigeria, and also the Civil Society Action Coalition on Education for All, known as SAKEPA. And of course, I don't need to mention the contribution of FHI 360, and especially the Live Builders and our organizations and for Educational Support Network, a part of our coalition members who are dedicated to helping education and also into this issue of alternate school or education. We as NGOs, definitely, we are much happy and welcome this development. And we would like to see a very elaborate framework of how things are going to unfold. But NGOs will support government in enlightening the out-of-school children, because we have so many different categories: street children, the orphans, the girl child, all those that are the almajiris, because we have them, a lot of them, and the statistics are not encouraging. So we help the government in enlightening the out of school children in order to enroll into the alternate schools, and also find support to teachers, the classroom space, and other resources. This cannot be done through. This can be done actually through targeted action to reach different types of out of school children: those who work, those who live in slums, those on the street, those in the IDPs, and those who live in places without schools. NGOs can also encourage learners to stay in the schools and give support to teachers in the schools, or through provision of capacity building and special training and new methods developed by the alternate education. So also CSOs will help in improving the quality of alternate education, which requires working closely with key stakeholders and agents of change, and also the teachers, the school management, if you like, if there is anything like that in the type of framework they come up with. NGOs will also work to ensure accountability, very central, and also the issue of implementation and scaling up the coordination and issues of sustainability. NGOs and the government could collaborate in developing appropriate and flexible learning assessment tools and align with alternative teaching and learning methods. All other things that has to do with alternate school or education, we are in support. We are very good in sensitization, mobilization, and also issues of resource mobilization for the program. Thank you very much, and we hope our contribution will be acknowledged. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alhaji Ibrahim Tudu. You have really spoken well on the number of activities and ways in which NGOs and CSOs can support this initiative. And thank you for taking the conversation from the context of big picture of peace and security, silencing the guns. Because unless we address these micro issues of inequality, then the guns will continue to shout and we can't have the peace we desire. So all the areas you have highlighted, from enlightenment to support to teachers to issues of targeted actions, capacity building, accountability and assessment are really great and are noted and will be documented as part of the outcome of this conversation. I want to confirm, and I also apologize that it's already time, but we buy some 10-15 minutes to ensure that we take this conversation to the actual level that was planned in the beginning. With this, I want to confirm whether Barrister Zainab is back. Barrister Zainab? She's not yet back. Wow.
No, I think she got bumped out because the same thing happened to me as well. I just got back in again. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So while waiting for her, can I confirm whether the representative of the SUBEB chair of Ogun State is here with us, Mr. Adeniran Samuel? Mr. Samuel Adeniran? Okay. Please, any other panelists in there beside Mohammed and Mohammed Kiana?
I'm around.
And Ibrahim Tudu?
I'm around. Hello?
Okay. Yes, Mr. Adeniran.
Hello.
I'm around.
Okay, good. Now, Mr. Adeniran, thank you. So, without much wasting much time, you are representing the SUBEB chair of Ogun State, and the conversations so far have pointed out the important place of the state systems in making this work. So, from your experience working with SUBEB, how do you see the future of alternate schooling from the perspective of institutionalization? Mr. Adeniran, it's your turn, please, if you can hear me. I can see that Barrister Zainab is back with us. Now, Barrister Zainab, can you take up from where you stopped?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very well now. Welcome back.
Okay.
So you were talking about the importance of the media. Good.
Because time is not on our side. The media has a very vital role to play in the sense that when you talk about accountability and monitoring and evaluation, the media has a lot of role to play. And whatever you do, you need the media, whether it's traditional media or the new media. Because I can remember that the first time we saw this alternate school program, when the president inaugurated the 18-man committee, I quickly ran to Dr. Sanwo-Olu and UBEC to find out what is this thing called alternate school program. Because the average Nigerian out there who this thing is meant for, that is the street children or out of school children or the vulnerable children or the orphans, don't even really understand what the government is talking about. And then secondly, we looked at the issue of sustainability. Every government that comes brings in policies that is expected to address issues of street children, out of school children. But it's one thing to have policies, it's another thing to see them.
Zainab must be having real network issues because she's off. But I can see that Mr. Adedran Samuel is back. Mr. Adedran, my question to you was around the future of alternate school from institutionalization perspective. You are with Sibeb. Can you speak to that, please? Okay, so I think
frozen as well.
Yes, it's frozen. Network issues there. We have people following on Facebook, Twitter, and as I'm here, I'm reading some of the comments. Most of them are around commendation on the importance of this conversation. I am reading one of them from Shehu Kakale, whom I assume should be the honorable member representing Tangeshuni Treta Federal Constituency, and who is a member of the alternate school committee, the first 18 committee that was announced. He said the alternate school program will surely solve the gaps in our conventional and formal education. The need for functional and productive education cannot be overemphasized as against the current road system that hardly teaches any skills and prepare a graduate to be sustainable lifelong productivity. Yeah, that is Shehu Kakale. And I think if he is the honorable member, I must say that his intervention in this regard is pronounced and unmistakable. Early this year, he set a target of reaching out to 1,000 Almajiri learners in his constituency and beyond within Sokoto State. And he doled out vehicles, sewing machines, and other facilities to support the learning of these children. And I think the total sum of this reported was some 200 million. I must say that the effort of Honorable Kakale is something worthy of emulation at personal legislative level, and that could not be unconnected with his membership of this committee. One comment that I am reading is Samaila Ahmad, who said this is quite great and one can see clearly the difference. Alternate education can make it. Toby Loba Timelayin on Facebook says this is a valid submission toward the reforming of educational sector. However, sustainable policy making and proper implementation, review and evaluation its pathway toward the success we crave for. This is really an eye-opening call. We are happy to hear this, and it's really encouraging. Question from Uchena Obonna. Alternate education is a brilliant idea which I believe will go a long way if well implemented. My question, however, concerns attracting teachers, educators who may be discouraged by the insecurity, especially in the north where the education problem is most significant. How will this be addressed so that the learners as well as the teachers will be guaranteed safety? Let me forward this to Dr. Anna Maziga. Anna Maziga, can you respond to this question from Uchenna? Briefly, please. Dr. Anna, you are working in the Northeast, Borno and Yobe in particular.
Okay.
And somebody is asking.
Unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please, can you respond to this question?
Yeah, so what we do, like, you know, alternate education or alternative education usually is communal-based thing. So for us, for the accelerated education, because it's in the communities, the learning facilitators come from those communities. So you saw when I said the impact was the engagement of 900 learning facilitators, meaning for the last 3 years, those people in the community that had an education, probably a diploma and NCE, and didn't have any job, we engaged them and were able to pay them a stipend every month. So the issue of insecurity in the North and discouragement by teachers will be taken care of, because these teachers will come from those communities. Every community you go to, there are educated youths. So the teachers will come from those communities. So the issue of getting somebody, and remember also that alternate education or accelerated education at the basic level, we encourage teaching in the mother tongue. So you have to get somebody within the community who knows the community, who is conversant with the culture, the way of life of the people, and whom the people can respect. So teachers come from those communities. So that problem is taken care of.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Anna. And I think this rhymes with what I see, Folake Olatunji David providing as a response, saying that these providers are to be supplemented by teachers in the localities and other teaching assistants to be engaged by the program. They're already part of that community. Well, we can go on and on. I must say that I will wrap up the panel session here, just managing with what we have with all the network connection. Thanks to Mohammed for his interesting take from right perspective on this issue and the education of the children that needs to be comprehensive, and all the issues he raised in that regard. Thanks also to Mohammed Alhaji Ibrahim Tudu for highlighting the role of non-governmental organizations and how they can support the program of alternate schools, and all the readiness he expressed. Barrister Zainab really tried, obviously, to join us. She made some points around the importance of the media and how actually on hearing about this, she ran to Dr. David. I must say that congratulations, Dr. David Sango, for being the person that comes to mind when issues of out-of-school children or any issue of schooling that a word like alternate school calls for. And I can see that she must have done some work in that regard. I think in another session, we may have the opportunity of hearing her. Obviously, the representative of the chairman, Auguste Sebet, made efforts to join us right from the beginning of this call, but we have not been able to hear even a word from him. These are some of the big picture issues. I heard Prof. Yvonne Here talked about education that will take us to that level of addressing challenges of renewable energy and even challenges of correction and network that we always have to contend with in situations like this. So thank you, panelists. I must say that regardless of all the challenges of connection, we've been able to come out with interesting thoughts and perspectives. And as Dr. Sango said in one of our conversations, that the whole purpose is to generate a bank of thoughts, database of thoughts that will help move this forward. So as a concluding step, I will propose that we get a word from the keynote speaker who has been patiently waiting and participating in this call, despite several other engagements. Professor Abonhare, sir, if I reminiscence your last take, I must say it's interesting listening to you every second of your take. But I will, with due respect, propose maximum of 2 minutes for your take, and then we hand over to the convener for his wrap up in another 2 minutes, so that before it is 1:25, we are done with this call. Professor Abunhore, if you are with us, please, it's your turn.
Hello. Let me just jump in here. He had already sent in a message saying that he had to run off for another meeting.
Okay.
Yes, he was a bit late for another meeting. And
all right.
Also, just to point out that I know we didn't have time for a few of the questions and answers to the people who made presentations. We can continue this conversation, of course, outside here. Just wanted to point that out to you. Over from my side.
Yeah, that's really useful. So the conversation continues on the various platforms. Dr. David, it's your turn. Please to give us a concluding remark, and we wrap up the session.
Yeah, thank you. It's been an interesting conversation generally. But all I can say is that this is a conversation that we must continue. We will not be distracted by the challenges, but we will still focus on the brighter side of life. For 10 years, FBI has seen 30,000 out of school children of all faith, race, and age return back to productive living. Alternate education must run side by side the regular traditional system. What we believe is that the CSO and the government must come together to keep Nigeria afloat by making education available to every Nigerian child and young adult. With this, I want to thank everyone who has been part of this conversation. The intellectual and technical support from Dr. Michael, from Ifeoma Garuba, and for Kimberly, from everybody. It's been awesome. I thank Prof. Ihovari for staying all the way, and thank Anna for the good work they have been doing. We will continue all that we have been saying. All I am going to say is that being a member of the technical working group of the alternate school program, it's a honor, and I representing the basic education subcommittee also puts a lot of responsibility on me to speak for the National Assembly, which is the closest organ in the civil society. So I will speak for the ordinary Nigerians. I'll be interested in finding out what the Almanjiri think is the solution. Of course, I've visited 6 of the Almanjiri stations. I've ate with them. I've had conversation with them. I've visited the riverine area of Lagos and Ilaje, Saudi, talking up to all out-of-school children. I've visited the Igbo community who are in the market. So I think I have a little bit of everything what everybody wants. But this committee will seek to present an agenda such that the alternative education can run side by side. And like I said, and like everybody has agreed, this is a conversation that we must sustain. We are coming back for the second round, come back for the third round, but we must keep talking until we have a solution. On this note, I want to thank everybody, and we invite you again, please come, because Nigeria is our responsibility, and providing a solution is not an option. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mikhailo. Over to you. Dr. Michael. Hello?
Okay.
Hello.
I think we have had Dr. Latunji David, although, okay, you are back, sir.
Yeah, I don't know where I went off, but basically what I'm saying, thank you for coming to everybody. We shall call you again. And when we do call, please answer, because we must provide a solution to Nigeria's problem. It's our responsibility. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Latunji, for mobilizing us and for making this first conversation, to the best of my knowledge, since the committee was inaugurated. And as Barrister Zainab said, you came to mind when the term was mentioned and she was looking for someone to decode it. So it's like your action really connects with a lot of engagements and terminologies. So, distinguished presenters, panel members, keynote speakers, my colleague in sharing this, Ifema, and several other people joining us on different platforms in their thousands. This is where we end this conversation. And as the convener says, it really continues. And it happens on this platform and beyond. So we look forward to you joining us, and this the outcomes of this will be documented and will be part of the implementation activities. Thank you so much, and have a good day and week ahead. Of course, the week is ending, and have a great weekend from tomorrow. With this, I will say bye. And thanks for understanding with us in this session and for joining us. Bye, everyone. Can you show your faces as we say bye to...
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mama. Thanks, Tudu. Bye.
Bye.